This is Nick Fuentes. He's a right-wing extremist. He's a groiper. You've probably heard that a lot lately. A groiper is a Nick Fuentes fan. He is opposed to Donald Trump from the right, fascinatingly. He thinks that Trump isn't going far enough. And Fuentes is a full-blown Hitler-loving neo-Nazi, Sieg-heiling nutcase. So I want to listen to what he had to say about Donald Trump. He's saying that Trump betrayed everybody because he's not doing enough deportations. So let's check this out and see what he says here. This is pre-Charlie Kirk, by the way. This is a few weeks old. I think this is like a week before Charlie Kirk died, or maybe just a few days.
And this is not anything really all that new. It's just that we finally got the data. And as you know, this has been a big issue of mine for the past couple of years. When the Trump campaign promised the mass deportations last year, you got to realize what a tall order that really is. And realistically, this is something that has been talked about for a long time. We have an unbelievable, huge illegal immigrant population.
We don't, really. We don't have a huge illegal immigrant population. We have a big immigrant population. Is that what you mean, Nick? We've had a big immigrant population for many years, and that's a good thing. Immigrants add to the economy dramatically. What is the downside to having a lot of immigrants? What's the bad part about it? The answer is there is no bad part about having a lot of immigrants in a country. There's nothing bad about it. There's one reason, why anybody would be opposed to having immigrants in the country. It's racism. There are something like 80 million immigrants in the United States, or were at the very least. 40 million have citizenship, though. 42 million, I think, don't have citizenship, but are permanent residents. And some portion of that 42 million does not have a green card or a visa, overstayed their visas or whatever. Some are asylum seekers, which is a perfectly legal process. They're here legally. It's really, before Donald Trump destroyed everything, it was not a problem at all to speak of. There are almost no criminals that are immigrants. In fact, immigrants make up a smaller portion of the criminal demographic than citizens do. So this is just pure unadulterated delusion. At the end of the day, this comes down to one thing. These people want segregation. They want this to be a whites-only country. If you notice, they're doing very little complaining. Nick Fuentes, for example, little complaining about Germans living here or people from the UK who don't have citizenship. I haven't heard a damn thing about it. ICE has gone through the court system and been given the right by the Supreme Court recently to racially profile people. Immigrants are not just dark-skinned people. There are a ton of countries around with people coming here from all different races and all countries and ethnicities and everything else. So why are they racially profiling for immigrants? Because they fucking hate brown people. That's why. That's what it boils down to at the end of the day.
We all recognize that the illegal immigration itself has to stop.
Why? For one thing, it's not a problem. But even if it were a problem, why? What's your hang up with it? What's your problem with it? It's not even a crime. It's a civil matter, like getting a parking ticket. Why do you care so much? What's the issue? What's the deal?
And a lot of these people that are already here and have been here have to go, especially in the past 4 years.
Why?
When we've had this record-breaking, unbelievable amount of illegal immigration.
This is just delusion again.
Literally smashing every record on the book by orders of magnitude.
Lies.
It just has to start going in reverse. That being said, this mass deportation proposal is a huge ordeal. It's a huge undertaking. And I don't think people realize that. I realized that. And I knew that last year. When they said we are going to massively deport all these millions of illegal immigrants, immediately this set off the alarm with me. Because in order to deport millions of people, you're gonna need tons of money, tons of personnel, and maybe more even than the resources. And related to the resource question also, you need political will.
Yeah, exactly. And ICE isn't really doing that exactly. The whole deportation thing, they're harassing people, innocent people, a lot of the time. People who are here completely legally. Like there's that Hyundai plant recently that was raided. Do you know that Hyundai plant was negotiated to come to that specific spot by, I believe, Biden? And the people of Georgia were all for it. They were excited for it. They wanted it because it was going to boost their economy. And the Koreans sent electricians and stuff over to the United States to help build the plant and train Americans on how to run it. It was incredibly valuable that they were here, and they were here legally on work visas to train Americans to do the job and then go back home. Temporary 60-day work visas. And before you know it, they're being held in an ICE detention facility with no light at the end of the tunnel. The Korean government, the South Korean government, had to negotiate for their release. And now Trump is apologizing for it because ICE is indiscriminately attacking groups that he doesn't like. He's just going after whoever he wants to go after with no rhyme or reason. And he's using ICE to do it. They are like the Gestapo, ICE is. And thanks to the Patriot Act, they can now just pull up anybody's communications. If they want, they can pull up my Discord notifications and read them. ICE can. The FBI can. Anybody can in the federal government. There's no privacy whatsoever, thanks to George Bush, who is also decrying what's happening right now. Again, I say, good job, dumbass. That was on you. You did that. That's your fault. You really didn't see this being misused? Genius. You're a thinker, George. You're a thinker.
Because the bigger problem you're going to run into in this gigantic undertaking, it cannot be done inconspicuously. To massively deport millions of people from America, you're going to need to enlist tons of manpower, tons of money. You're going to need to build structures, enlist judges, lawyers. It cannot be done inconspicuously, discreetly. You cannot do this under the cover of night.
Literal millions, tens of millions of people have to go through the process and of deportation. And you're going to need to do or to give them due process to make sure you're not getting the wrong person, if no other reason.
This is going to be a Herculean, long-term, intensive effort. Now, with that being said, for that to work, a couple of things are going to need to happen. Forget about, for a moment, the cash infusion. Forget about how you build the detention facilities. Forget about how you train up the personnel. What is involved in the question of mass deportations is, first and foremost, a question of follow-through. When you think about huge projects like World War II, like the New Deal, like major infrastructure projects, building the federal highway system, what is required is a sustained focus from the top for a long period of time. How do you deport millions of people? Well, you're going to need the whole of government to be involved. It's going to need to get bigger. It's going to need to get more focused. It's going to need to build things and hire people, and it's going to need to combat different federal injunctions from judges. It's very complicated. And so what this requires is organization, coordination, focus, perseverance. In a word, political will. If you're going to massively deport people, this needs to be a central focus. Do you understand? This is like Obamacare, or it's like the war in Iraq. To move 10 million people out of this country in a short period of time, it's a big deal. That needs to take up all the energies and all the attention of the people in government.
And you can't do it in a callous, brazen, human rights violating way, because you're going to completely lose the support of the people. They're going to turn against you completely, which has already happened.
So that's actually a big question. Is the Trump administration prepared to do this? Is that a serious proposal? When they say mass deportations, are they being flippant? Are they using a figure of speech? When they say mass deportations, do they mean they're going to round up millions of people and physically remove them? Or do they mean like a lot of deportations? Do they mean more deportations than we're getting? Because there's a big difference. There's all the difference in the world. You can reasonably increase deportations with the resources we have. You could get new resources, but to massively deport people is a whole other thing. So what did they mean by that? When they said mass deportations, did they know what they were talking about?
No, they had no idea, of course. They had no clue what was involved in deporting such a massive number of people from the United States. And they certainly didn't know how it was going to negatively affect the economy, but they didn't care. The Trump administration had no fucking clue what they were doing, and they didn't care all along.
Do you know what they were talking about? Did they mean that there would be a whole of government approach to move millions of people out of the country? Are they prepared to do that? Are they capable of doing that? Do they have the will to be that focused, coordinated, organized, and to carry this out in a sustained way to the exclusion of almost everything else for the entirety of the 4 years? Another big variable in this equation is that maybe you could argue yes, because Trump has had it. He knows how government works. He's got the right personnel this time. He's got Stephen Miller.
This time, he says.
He's going to come in focused and he's just going to do things. And maybe you've taken care of that side of the equation. Maybe you believe that. But then, of course, in politics, there's an action and a reaction. What happens when the administration starts to ramp up? Like I said, they can't do this discreetly. When they start hiring and you see federal officers everywhere and you see people in cages that are being built very quickly to expedite them out of the country, you're going to get a major reaction. And not just...
I mean, he's saying this as though this isn't already happening. This is only like 2 weeks old. This has been happening since, at the very bare minimum, since the big, beautiful bill was passed. I don't... Do you not realize that this is taking place already, Nick? I mean, a lot of what Trump is doing is for the sake of cruelty, like deporting people to prisons in Uganda. That's just for the sake of cruelty. Those people will never get out of there, and it's a torture chamber, and he knows that. So it's like, what's the end goal here? Why are you doing this way? I keep hitting it at the wrong time.
Just from the left. You're going to get a reaction from the Democrats, from the media, from the far left. You're also going to get a reaction from moderate Republicans, from the Joe Rogans. Maybe Stephen Miller's ready for mass deportations. Is Joe Rogan? Is David Sachs? Is Elon Musk? Are core members of the MAGA coalition from the election, are they prepared for that? The answer I always thought was no. And we saw a preview of this in 2018. Trump started to get the border under control very quickly in his first term. In order to do that, they had to separate the minors from the adults when they detained them. They called it the family separation policy.
Yeah, and it was ugly and brutal. And that shit's happening now, too. Even worse today, of course, than at the time. And Fuentes is in favor of that. He wants that. That's a good thing in his mind. It's psychotic. This dude is broken inside. Literally, no downside to having immigrants in the country. No downside. What is your complaint? The honest answer to that, what is your complaint, is he wants segregation. He wants more racism.
Unaccompanied minors are a big part of the illegal immigration problem. They started to do this, and they had wall-to-wall coverage 24/7 for months. You remember, before the midterms, the narrative was that Trump was putting children in cages. Kids were being put in cages. It's like the Holocaust. And the administration backed down.
This guy doesn't believe in the Holocaust. He thinks it's fake.
Under political pressure. So the question is not just, is the Trump administration prepared to do it? Are they prepared to do it against all the inevitable pushback from the media, from your own political faction, from the Democrats in the midterm election? Are you prepared? Because it's one thing to do it by itself, but it's another thing to do it against all the opposition, because that's really what makes it a challenge. The rest is logistics. And I said last year, I think the answer is no. Nothing that you could show me last year proved in any way, shape, or form that this administration would be serious about doing what I just said. They're not organized, they're not intentional, they're not focused, they're not capable. And what's more, are they ready for the pushback? Absolutely not. What happens when Elon and Joe Rogan join up with the left and suddenly this frat bro uprising goes?
Dude, this guy has, like, he's completely disconnected from reality. You view the world completely differently than me or literally anybody else on planet Earth. What? He's such a weaselly little gremlin. Yeah, he's pretty rough. He's bad.
Golden Age, morning in America, when that crashes on the rocks of reality and we realize people are actually quite liberal still, are people going to be able to fight? Are they going to be willing to continue what must be done? And I thought, no, nobody in this administration is serious about this. They're not serious about what it takes to do it. They're not serious about pushing back against the left. It's not going to happen. I said, rather, what we're getting is this sort of flippant bait. They're saying, yeah, mass deportations, because they know that those are the magic words that they can use to get the radical right-wing base to turn up in the election and vote.
Which is him, which is Nick Fuentes. He identifies that way. I don't understand. You don't think they're doing mass deportations right now? I don't get where his head is at that he views it that way. What?
But they're not really serious about following through. Now, since Trump got into office, this has been a matter of much scrutiny. Has there been follow through? Are they trying? And this has been a matter of a lot of debate. And if you watch the show, you've seen it. You have defenders of the administration on one side that are arguing that, as a matter of fact, the mass deportations are happening. And how do they characterize this? They say, well, they're not where they need to be, but they're ramping up, and the administration is having to fight all these legal battles.
But they're ignoring the legal battles completely. What are you talking about?
They had to get money through the big, beautiful bill, and there's all these other considerations, but they're coming eventually. It's going to happen one day. They're using other measures. For example, they used a figure from a survey offered by the Census Bureau, a small survey, which they said showed evidence based on some math that they did that 2 million people left America voluntarily. 2 million illegal foreign nationals left the country voluntarily. And here's the issue with this debate about, whether this is happening, in what timeline. And I've said this from the start. It's actually a very simple conversation. We know how many people are being deported. The government knows this. The federal government knows exactly how many people it's deporting all along. And they used to report this. Under the Biden administration, ICE released these numbers quarterly, weekly. Under the Trump administration, they stopped. Do you know that? ICE has reporting standards. They're supposed to produce a quarterly public number.
That's true, and they have not. That's correct.
On the DHS website, the Biden administration did it every quarter.
Damn, I was not paying any attention to which direction they just went. I should have paid attention to that.
Trump administration has not done it once. They're supposed to release weekly figures. They haven't done it. Does anybody even know that? The Trump administration, as a matter of fact, they were, at the very beginning of the second term, they were reporting on a press social media account the number of daily arrests. They did that for 2 weeks, and then they quietly stopped. Do you remember that? They did it for 2 weeks. Daily arrests, 400 and some. Daily arrests, 500 and some. And the numbers were very low after Tom Homan promised day one.
Well, that's because there aren't that many undocumented immigrants in the United States, that most of them are documented, and almost none of them are criminals.
Deportation rates, they started very low. They gradually got higher, and then they started coming down again, and then they stopped publishing even those numbers.
Why do you think that is? It's obviously because they've run out of people to deport. Nick Fuentes doesn't want to deport illegal immigrants. He wants to deport immigrants.
In the meantime, like I said, people have tried to look and read between the lines, tried to read the tea leaves. How many people really are being removed? People are looking at traffic in Los Angeles. Did you see that? They said that if you look at Google Maps of rush hour traffic in Los Angeles, it looks like traffic seems to be better. So I guess all these illegals got deported. People
Okay, that's really ridiculous, but whatever.
are having to look at these very unscientific measures to get an idea of whether or not these removals are happening. Well, it turns out we now have a number from ICE. We got it from a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act. ICE will not report the numbers, so someone had to ask for them through the legal channels. We now have the numbers, and they're pretty rough. It shows that from January 20th, Inauguration Day, until July 31st, 1 month ago, the Trump administration deported 145,000 people. And by the way, that includes confirmed self-deportations.
That's interesting. That includes people who left of their own free will, huh?
That figure includes every type of removal, every person that ICE has removed, in addition to every person that ICE can verify has voluntarily left. Now, maybe people voluntarily left that we don't know about. Certainly that has happened. Can we quantify it? Not reliably, because we can't count who's not here. What we can count is who has been deported, and we can measure who has been verified as leaving using the CBP One app or leaving through an immigration court. And that number is not good.
Not good in his mind means it's not very high. It is very high, and I know people who have been deported and sent to horrifying conditions elsewhere. But he wants immigrants, all of them, 40 million out of the country. 40 million.
It's about 145,000 in 7 months. On average, that's about 750 per day. And like I said, if you
Trump said he wanted 1,500 per day.
extrapolate that out and calculate what that would be over the course of a year, it's about 275,000. Over 4 years, over 1 million, just shy of over 1 million.
And he said, if you remember, Trump said, there are so many people, we can't afford them all due process, which is false. You could, but you can't give them due process because there are so many. Well, you know, that tells me that he's just been taking due process for no reason, just because he wants to now. He could have provided due process to all of these people like they're supposed to have. Trump is just choosing not to, like the monstrous scumbag that he is.
This is a story from Newsweek. It says, quote, Newsweek has analyzed numbers released by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement under a FOIA request, which provided recent records of immigrants to depart the U.S. through July 31st. Since President Trump took office on January 20th, ICE had deported 145,000 illegal immigrants, peaking in June with a total of 28,000, just under 1,000 per day. So the monthly totals are going up and down, but the highest month so far was in June. They went down significantly in July, and in June it topped off at just under 1,000 per day. These are not high numbers. It says in February, the first full month of Trump's second term, confirmed voluntary departures were at 592. By July, that number climbed to 4,241. The beginning of the increase roughly aligns with the repurposing of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection app. Under former President Biden, the CBP One was a tool for immigrants to book appointments with officials at the border. The administration transformed it into a tool for those without legal status to report self-deportation. These are the numbers. And here's the thing. When we as a coalition, because let's say that the Groypers, in some sense, were part of the MAGA coalition. I know people are going to say, what are you talking about? You didn't vote for Trump. I did not vote for Trump. I told you not to. Nevertheless, I'm sure that a lot of people that sympathize with me, immigration restrictionists, nativists, they voted for Trump. So let's just say, better said, immigration restrictionists who are a part of the MAGA coalition, they voted for Trump because mass deportations was their priority.
And that is happening. Whether you like that or not, like 1,000 people a day is mass deportation.
That was promised to them, to us, by Trump. That's why Trump received those votes. Now it's not being delivered.
But it is. God, this dude, like, There is nothing Trump could do to make him happy, is there, honestly?
And you look around at what this administration is doing, it's not that this administration can't do anything. It's forcing Colombia to police anti-Semitism. It bombed Iran.
Yeah, he does not like Jews, and the anti-Semitism steps that the Trump administration have taken really upset Nick Fuentes as a result. And he also doesn't want to get involved in bombing Iran because Iran is Israel's enemy, not the United States' enemy. Like, nobody in the United States gives a shit about Israel. I'm sorry, about Iran. Trump said he bombed Iran on behalf of Israel. He did it for Israel, and that upsets the groypers.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
It revoked the visas of anybody that criticized Israel. It's reviewing 55 million visas and the social media accounts of those visa holders to see what their opinions are of the war in Gaza.
Yep, that certainly upsets him, I'm sure.
So the administration can do some things for some people. It chooses not to do the other things.
So Trump is not Nazi enough for Nick Fuentes, is the bottom line here.
For other people. And my question in the previous election, it's the same question I pose in every election. What exactly is in it for us? Because what we're being told is that we're part of this grand bargain where we have to tolerate a GOP controlled by Israel, and that's just the reality. But in exchange, we are getting something. Don't worry, we're getting mass deportations. This is what we're being told. You may not like everything the Trump administration is doing. You may not like everyone in the Trump administration, but you are a participant in this. You are a signatory.
They don't like Stephen Miller because he's a Jew. I'm 100% serious.
On this grand bargain that we made with them, we, the white Americans, we, the nativists, we made a deal with the Zionists that control the party. They get their war in Gaza. Well, who even cares? I hope they just kill each other. That's all the way over there. That's not our problem. I care about America. They say the Israelis get their war. They get the West Bank and Gaza. We get our mass deportations. All right. Well, what if they're not holding up their end of the bargain? What if they never intended to hold up their end of the bargain?
You just now realizing Trump is corrupt as they come.
What if the structure of the deal is all wrong? Because we give them our vote and then they're in the driver's seat. People like us are not in power. They are in power. So you have two parties that come together ostensibly for the execution of a deal. And we agree, okay, you get one thing, I get this thing, but the other party executes the deal. The other party is in charge of how the deal is executed. Now, is that how any deal really works? Would you make any deal like that with your finances? Would you make any deal like that with a business partner? Would you enter into a deal with another party, a quid pro quo, and that other party is unilaterally in control of how the deal is carried out and whether they're going to hold up their end of the bargain? Of course not. Well, what am I talking about here? If the proposition is the Republican Party is coming to us and saying, all right, everybody, we're going to have to give the Israelis their war, but don't worry, you're going to get immigration. It's a matter of trust that they're going to follow through because the Israelis are running the government. We're not running the government. Nativists are not. Who's running even the deportation policy? Stephen Miller.
God, dude. Stephen Miller is Jewish. This is what I said a minute ago. They don't like him because he's Jewish. Israel is not pulling strings like puppet masters in that way. I think much of the support for Israel from Donald Trump is a pretext for authoritarianism. We're going to ban protest of Israel, and that's going to, disproportionately affect the left or whatever. AIPAC is a problem, without a doubt. And Israel does have a lot of control over the country. But for Nick Fuentes, it's not Israel, it's Jews. He views them as subhumans, Untermensch, if you will.
Stephen Miller is a Zionist Jew. Stephen Miller is a Zionist Jew cheerleading the war in Iran. He was married to his Jewish wife by Trump's ambassador to Israel. We have no control. We are not in the driver's seat. Who's being appointed? Darren Beatty, Mike Benz, Yoram Hazony's people.
Mike Benz, what a name.
These are all Jews. Tucker Carlson had on a guest who was fired from the State Department because Mark Levin's son-in-law, nephew-in-law complained. So we think we're making this deal. We're trusting them to execute the deal.
Yeah, last name Dover. First name Ben, last name Dover. That's what I was thinking.
Out of good faith on our behalf and hold up their end of the bargain. Why would they do that? We vote for them. They get all the power. They do the things that they want. And the things that we want are a complete afterthought, obviously. They're going to do the things they want. And if we're lucky, maybe they'll do the things that they promised that they would do for us. But they don't really care that much. That's the problem.
Obviously, there's corruption all through the entire system.
Now, the reason I'm saying this thing about mass deportations, let's just be honest, it isn't happening. It's been 7 months and there has been no significant deportations. And before people say, well, we got to pressure the administration to get these numbers higher. Look, like on some level, I'm not opposed to that. People say we got to pressure the administration. If it's not happening by now, it ain't going to happen. We got to put the pressure on. First of all, what does that mean? You're going to get on social media?
Yeah, so what is ICE doing exactly then? If they've deported, don't trust anything out of his mouth, by the way. Don't trust the numbers. Don't trust anything. Could very easily be higher or lower than he's saying. But say hypothetically, it's not 10 million. It's not even 1 million, I would assume. Say it's around 250,000 people that have been deported. Say it's 250,000 people. What is ICE doing? They are larger and better funded than the Israeli military, as far as I am aware. So what are they doing? They're using it to harass Trump's political opponents and to spread fear and intimidation through the population. That's what they're doing. That's what they're using ICE for. By the by, somebody asks, is the German Cup new? It's actually the Volga German Cup, not just the German Cup. It's, my wife is Volga German. It's a subset of Germans who lived in Russia, in the Volga River region, until they were ethnically cleansed by Stalin. And many of them moved to Nebraska in the United States. And my wife's family is from there.
And say what? Dude, they run social media. Elon Musk owns Twitter. The Trump administration's facilitating the purchase of TikTok. And all the influencers on our side are paid off by the GOP. You are not pressuring shit, okay? You're not pressuring anything. Pressure. You think you can generate pressure? Vance's best friend owns the fucking platform.
That's interesting. Is he talking about Peter Thiel?
The top influencers are paid by the GOP. What do you think you're pressuring exactly? So that's one. When people say that, what do they mean? You're going to go online with your 300 follower account and complain? And who's going to listen? All these people in government, they know what they promised. They know what they said. You think they're going to look at this 300 follower account and say, oh boy, well, this guy's not happy. I guess we have to move all of government to deport millions of people, because it doesn't work that way. I'm not opposed to it, but think about the calculus here. Let's think about a couple of things. First, let's think about the economy. We're entering stagflation. What does that mean? Interest rates are already high, but inflation is high. Inflation is stubborn, looks like it's might be creeping back up. If you lower interest rates, there's a chance that inflation might go up more. You already have tariffs in place. Arguably, in the short term, tariffs have an inflationary effect.
Arguably? What? What are you smoking? Arguably, they have an inflationary effect? Are you fucking serious right now? Tariffs are inflationary. It's a new tax.
In the short term, these tariffs will increase prices. So you have stubbornly high inflation because of COVID, quantitative easing, supply chains, tariffs. It's stubborn. At the same time, the job market is very slow right now. there's some red flags in the economy. That's why
There are like a lot of red flags. Yes, people have been talking about this since before Trump was elected. The things that he said he intended to do were always going to lead to a complete economic crash. Everybody knew that. Everybody could see that clear as day, except apparently you.
Trump wants to lower the rates. He wants to grease up the economy. He wants the stock market to go up. He wants hiring to improve. So we're already in this very tricky situation where we have to choose between high inflation or slow growth.
And whose fault is that exactly? I mean, I would love it if he would just come out and tell us.
You either lower interest rates and you get high inflation and maybe you kickstart growth, or you keep interest rates high and inflation stays down, but growth is slow and you're sort of effectively in a recession. What happens when you massively deport illegal immigrants? Well, look, a lot of them have jobs. And that
You fuck the economy even worse. That is correct.
means a couple of things. That means they work for low wages. The other thing means they spend money here. So what happens when you deport illegal immigrants? Well, wages are going to have to go up because the labor pool shrinks. Labor cost goes up. Prices have to go up. That's inflation. And consumer spending goes down. These illegal immigrants, they do spend money here. So that slows growth. So deporting illegal immigrants is not something the administration wants to do right now. And if you don't believe me, just ask the administration. What did Trump say when he passed the big, beautiful bill? The big, beautiful bill was supposed to remedy all these resource problems that were hindering mass deportations. They appropriated $150 billion to hire the ICE agents, build the facilities, get it going. And what did Trump say the day the bill was passed? He said, we will not deport illegal immigrants working on farms, in hotels, in restaurants, in construction.
He did say that because it was fucking stupid of him to suggest such a thing in the first place. Undocumented immigrants are the backbone of our economy.
He said, and the radical right won't like that, but they'll understand. He said, we need the people. We need these people to stay here. What does he mean we need the people? We have people here.
You think that people are going, God, he just has no clue how the economy works at all, obviously.
It's not that we need the people. It's that we need the people to stay here working at the wages they're working at because we don't want to upset the apple cart. So for economic reasons, that's why the deportations are going down.
So dude is saying Trump is trying to protect the economy by not mass deporting people. That's his claim. That is absurd. Trump does not give a fuck about the economy. Never did. The dude's just a dummy.
The big, beautiful bill passed in what, May, June? Deportations went down. Think about it. We appropriated $150 billion to get deportations up. Trump deployed the National Guard to LA to suppress the anti-deportation riots. And after both of these things, deportations are down 20%. They're down month over month. And they told us why. It's because even though the base wants it, even though the administration promised it, it's just not going to work for the economy. So the economic constraints are there. Then there's the political constraints. When those riots were happening in LA, you know who spoke up against the deportations? It wasn't just leftists. It was also Joe Rogan. It was also Elon Musk. They said, we're okay with deporting criminals. I don't know about everybody else, though. And they signaled that a year ago. Joe Rogan is not a far-right ethno-nationalist.
He's getting there. He's changed his mind very much. He said a long time ago, he said, deportation efforts would be astronomical. Like, it would take so much work to deport so many people, and it would be so inhumane and insane. But he's changed his mind very much on that over the past few years. So that's simply not true. I mean, he's not a Nick Fuentes fan as far as I know, but he's still like pretty far right now. Joe Rogan is, unfortunately.
Neither is the All In podcast or David Sachs, or for that matter, anyone in Silicon Valley. Now, what happens in the midterm elections when let's say next year in 2026, because people think the numbers are low now. Okay, what if they get jacked up? What if the numbers are doubled? Well, you're getting killed with Hispanic voters. You're going to have people like Joe Rogan in Silicon Valley. They'll be speaking out against it. So how's that going to help? And maybe the money dries up for the Republicans in the midterms too, because now Silicon Valley is such a big patron of the GOP. And that's not to mention what is going to be the political effect of wall-to-wall coverage of Gestapo ICE raids and riots and Antifa terrorism trying to stop them. It's not going to happen politically either.
So I guess the point he's getting to is the raids are going to be very unpopular and horrific and ugly and disturbing, and you're going to lose popularity completely. But it's necessary to make me feel better about being racist, right? Am I reading this correctly? Am I picking up what he's putting down, catching what he's throwing?
So it is September 2025. The midterms realistically start in the spring of next year. So you got about 8 months before this becomes reality. The economic constraints are already there. And then from then until election day, you can't do mass deportations. What happens in 2027? Well, the race for 2028 begins. Of course, 2028, you're going to have a wide open Republican and Democrat field, just like in 2016.
And Trump is too old to be president for much longer. He's not going to be president in 2028, in my opinion. At the very least, I believe that he would retire. I mean, I just don't see it happening. We have a few years to live through this horror show. And after this horror show is over, everybody involved in this administration is fucked. Everybody. Elon Musk is fucked. Pam Bondi is fucked. They're all going to prison for the rest of their lives, in one man's humble opinion. Because when a Democrat gets in power, when the Democrats get in power, they're going to pay a legal price for what they've done, I believe. Trump may be scandal-proof. They are not. I believe that they are fucked. We'll see. And I suspect that the propagandists will also be fucked. Nick Fuentes and such.
And these primaries, they tend to start in 2020. The Democrat primary started in January 2019, 2 months after the midterms. In 2016, the GOP primary started in April 2015, 5 months after the midterms. So the midterms are going to be most of next year. And then within maybe 6 months of the midterms, the 2028 election begins. And it's the same logic, the same economic logic, the same political logic. So people are out there saying, we gotta pressure the administration. We gotta speak out. Dude, they know what they're doing. Who do you think is sticking the knife in your back and fucking twisting it? They're doing it. They know what they promised. They know what people are saying. They're not delivering. And who are they gonna listen to? Elon Musk, the economy, the elections, or you? Because you're mad on Twitter, but you're gonna vote Republican anyway. They don't care. You're mad. The Republicans have been mad for 30 years. They vote anyway.
This dude's been trying to, foment complete insurrection against Donald Trump for a while. That's so fascinating to me.
They don't care. It costs them nothing. They care about the economy. They care about the elections. They care about the midterms. So really what I'm saying when I talk about deportations is think about how politics works for you. Does it work for you? Is this deal working for you? Illegal immigration is maybe the biggest thing ruining our quality of life. We could
How? How is it ruining anything at all? I don't understand. Why are you so unhappy with undocumented immigrants? You said you wanted the criminals out, right? Well, okay, fine. Criminals out. Now what? What's bad about it? There is no downside to immigration. None.
deal with all the other nonsense. But on top of it, you got Indian truck drivers slamming into people, causing a fucking 6 million mile long pileup on the highway. You've got Venezuelans with their kids on their back selling candy bars they stole from Walgreens.
They didn't steal. This is just delusion. This is just completely made up, all of it. Why are you making this up? What's the point of making this up?
In the middle of the intersection.
And why do you care if people are in the middle of the intersection selling candy bars? What's the problem here?
They're stealing cars. They're breaking into cars.
The criminals are gone. They're gone. There are no more criminals. there are no more undocumented immigrants with criminal records in the United States. That's why the Trump administration had to start deporting non-criminals. There weren't that many to begin with. Now what? Those people aren't undocumented. The ones that you see selling candy bars, they're not undocumented. They're documented. You just don't like brown people or those with, Mexican sounding names like Fuentes, for example, apparently.
Driving up the cost of housing. We don't even know where to put all these people. They're making it so that it takes 8 hours to get seen at a hospital at
Oh, give it a rest, dude. You think that is why it's difficult to get seen at a hospital? Because of undocumented immigrants? You will blame literally anything on immigrants, won't you? My God, dude. I don't even understand the logic of that one. How could you possibly think that's thanks to undocumented immigrants?
any given time. All we voted for in the last election was get these fucking people out. We didn't vote to bomb Iran. We didn't vote to have regime change in Venezuela. We didn't vote to make Ukraine safe for democracy. And yet we're doing all that. We didn't vote to make Colombia safe for Jews so they don't get criticized. We didn't vote to make it so that you can't boycott Israel. We voted to get these fucking people out. And what was promised was a whole of government effort to massively deport these people. In reality, they were never serious about doing it. They never.
No, I think they were serious about doing it. They just realized when you get to that point that it's not logistically feasible and it will absolutely destroy the economy. Nick Fuentes is just fine with that. This is wild, dude. Just disgusting.
Never intended on following through. They said that because they knew that's what you wanted to hear. They do it every election. It's called red meat for the base. It's juicy. It's bloody. They throw it to you. It's a scrum. The people go in, and then they know they'll do what they always do. They forget about it, like they do with everything. The Epstein files, the Capitol footage, you name it.
That's interesting. The Capitol footage was released by Tucker Carlson. It was selectively released, selectively edited, if I remember correctly, but they did release a lot of the Capitol footage.
Obamacare, did they ever repeal Obamacare? They campaigned on that in 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. It's still there. It's Obamacare still there.
I don't think that's true. Trump definitely dismantled large portions of Obamacare. Like, I think he erased the individual mandate, which is one of the key components of it, for example.
It's all still there. So this is where you need to change how you think about politics, where you think, oh, well, it's going to be better under Trump. Well, look, I mean, I don't care what happens in Gaza as long as we get our deportations. When you vote, it's sort of like, think about it like this. When the Federal Reserve prints money, who does the money go to first? It goes to the finance sector first.
I don't know about that. I mean, I guess it depends on whether you're printing money to replace old money or you're printing new money to use for things.
And they benefit from that. It actually matters. When the Federal Reserve prints money and when they do quantitative easing and they manipulate their balance sheet, where does that hit first? It first hits with the banks and the big corporations. And they get a little bit of an edge, sort of like a casino. You know how in a casino, every single game mathematically makes it fucking impossible for you to lose?
Yep, that's why going to casinos is ridiculous and stupid. Don't ever do it. It's a complete waste of your money.
The best odds you're going to get is if you're card counting on blackjack, you get 49% or something. It's like when the Federal Reserve prints money. And it's like in politics. When you vote, you are not getting in power. Trump is. When you vote, you don't become president. Trump becomes president, obviously. But then what does Trump do? Trump nominates a cabinet. Trump nominates heads of every agency and department in the federal government. And then what do? Well, they pick their deputies, and their deputies pick deputies, and their deputies pick policy directors and all kinds of different people. And those people actually have the power. And who are those people? The donors. The billionaires pick the personnel.
Yep.
Because the billionaires say, look, Trump, I'll give you $100 million to help you win the election, but then I get to pick your Secretary of State. I get to be your Secretary of Education. How do you think Linda McMahon became the Secretary of Education? Or
because she has so much experience in the education sector, she's so intelligent and good at what she does, right?
Betsy DeVos in the last Trump term. They gave the money, and then they become the personnel, and then they get to write the policy. They have the power. You are outside pressuring them, writing your tweets, being angry. Why aren't you deporting more people? They have the power. They wield the power of the government. And we're just trusting them. Okay, here's all the power. Now are you going to do what you promised us you'd do? Why would they do it? They're going to do what helps them. They don't give a fuck about illegal immigration.
Problem is that Nick Fuentes has been fed this line of nonsense about how, like, there are way more undocumented immigrants in the United States than there really are, and that they are, like, here completely illegitimately. Asylum seekers are here legitimately. People on visas are here legitimately. Permanent residents with green cards are here legitimately. And you can't just deport them because you want to. Fuentes is conflating people who have green cards or just any immigrant at all that does not have citizenship with illegal immigrants. That's not the case. And he says we're only deporting 150,000 people over 7 months. He just lives in a fantasy land because he doesn't understand how any of this works, apparently.
It doesn't affect them. Do you think illegal immigration affects any of these people? It does not. It affects working class people. It affects people in the heartland of the country.
It really doesn't. It really does not. It doesn't affect those people at all.
It affects people that actually have to go to a hospital with the scrum.
With these scrum?
People. It affects people in the heartland of the country. It affects people that actually have to go to a hospital with the scrum.
Did he mean scum? I mean, this should tell you all you need to know about how he views people that aren't white, right? And to answer your next question, yes, his last name is Fuentes, and yes, he is of Mexican heritage. His grandfather, or he's 1/4 Mexican, grandparent was Mexican. But does that matter to him? No. No, he's fine with hating Mexicans all the same.
It does not affect them. That's just one example. And so how do you think about politics? We need to take power. Forget about voting. Just get that out of your vocabulary. How can we use power? Using the vote is one way. We can get together, as I've said many times, and say, listen, we are going to get together and withhold our vote. To punish you, to reward you, to make a demand. That's a way to use power. That's one way.
That's a stupid way. Especially for us right now, we should be focused on harm reduction as people on the left. Like it or not, we need harm reduction. We need to come together and work together to solve this problem of fascism in the United States. If the communists and the social democrats had done that in Germany in the 30s, harm reduction, it may have turned out differently than it did. Unfortunately, grassroots support collapsed in Germany and had little to no effect on Hitler at the time, fascinatingly, uniquely. The situation we're in is really closer to the civil rights battles that we fought in the US 100 years ago. It's between 100 and 50 years ago. Just a reminder, I would really appreciate it if you guys checked out my Patreon. If you're not going to donate, you don't have to, but follow me there at the very least. owenmorgan.com/Patreon. Just in case something happens with the government or whatever. It would be really good if you had some way to connect with me and my content. I'm really concerned about that. And maybe you should consider that for other creators too.
Collective action. There's other ways. What if we all got together and boycotted? What if we all got together and stopped sending money?
Please do it. I love that idea for you, Nick. Do it.
But collective action, using your vote, using your dollar, doing other things, collective action. That's one. Another one is you actually get into the halls of power. That's why I encourage Groypers, go to college, join a college Republican chapter, volunteer for campaigns, get involved in state and local government, try to get in DC. Make as much money as you can. Maybe one day you could be a donor to a congressman. You could be a congressman. You could donate to the president. We want power. That's what this is all about. Pressuring, raising awareness. Fuck all that.
No, that stuff's important. I don't know what he's talking about right now, but that stuff is incredibly important. That's all we have sometimes. And in Germany, public pressure collapsed, or the ability to apply public pressure collapsed. It has not collapsed here in the United States. We can still accomplish things through public pressure.
If I hear one more person saying we need to raise awareness, I'm just going to punch them in the throat. Well, we need to raise awareness. Well, we need to tell people. And don't get me wrong, that's part of what we do, but it's a means to an end.
It's the most important thing that we can do. It's the most important tool that we have today.
Why are we raising awareness? To get power. Why are we raising the consciousness? To get power. Why are we winning the argument? To get power. It's not about, convincing your grandma to be a groiper. It's about seeding the ground so that the culture changes, so that people that have our views can attain institutional power, so that some guy doesn't get blasted out of his his college Republican chapter because he liked an edgy meme about Israel.
Which means he liked Nazi memes.
It's about seeding the ground with ideas for a cultural change so that people are not nuked from orbit for having our views. Then they can be college Republicans. If they could be CRs, they could work on campaigns. If they could work on campaigns, they can work in congressional offices. If they can work in congressional offices, they can be deputies in departments and agencies.
I appreciate that he's laying out a strategy here. It makes it a lot easier to counter it.
And so on and so forth. But eventually we want to be those people on that side of the equation. We don't want to be the people outside complaining, being angry, and, okay, we'll vote, whatever. We want to be the people on the other side with the power. And to the extent that we have to vote, do vote. To the extent that we have to spend our money, do spend our money. Collective action is the way. Don't give them anything for free. Don't give them your vote. They're not giving us anything. When have you ever been given fucking anything? You don't get anything. This administration doesn't. What did they just take away? This administration today just made it so that airlines don't have to refund you for canceling your flights. They're not giving away anything.
That's very true. They did do that. And he's drawing out a very important point. The administration is about as corrupt as they come, and they don't care about anybody. They care about money and power. That's it.
If anything, the Democrats give stuff away. Think about it. In not the last election, but the election before that in 2020, Trump could have given you another stimulus. Instead, he appointed this idiot, Amy Coney Barrett, to the Supreme Court. They could have given you $1,000 in your fucking hands, and they gave us this. She adopted George Floyd and cried about, black people. They don't give you anything.
Bro, what? Amy Coney Barrett is like a right-wing nutcase. What are you talking about?
Biden forgave student loans. Biden took.
Well, he tried, but that was shot down, of course.
Medical debt off your credit score. That helped me. I had an ambulance bill that my mom didn't pay, some clerical nonsense, and it was on my credit report. Biden took it off. That helped my life. You know when Trump has ever helped my life? 0 times, ever. Never gotten anything. They take shit away. And next time you book a flight and they cancel and you're not entitled to a refund, remember when you give Trump your vote and we're all on the team and we just got to do our part and hold the line. They're not giving you anything. Don't give them anything. Everything must be a play. Everything must be a strategy.
That's interesting. I'm actually really liking the direction of this. Like I said, he's a Nazi. He's a Hitler-loving, Sieg-heiling Nazi. So he is one of those that I would consider to be too far gone. We can't work with somebody like this. We can't meet in the middle on anything. But I'm glad to see that the Nazis are fighting against corruption, it seems.
Don't give them your vote. Trade the vote. Make your vote a performance. That's what I did in the last election. I didn't vote. I said, I'm going to use the election as a drama. Oh, you care about winning? Well, listen to me. You want to win. You want the votes. I'm not going to give them to you. I'm not going to give them to you, and I'm going to use it to promote my issues. Now what? We're supposed to trust the plan, your plan? How about we're going to get groypers inside the government? We need to get people that are actually on that side of the vote.
There are groypers in the government. Marjorie Taylor Greene spoke at Nick Fuentes' conference not too long ago. I think she denounced him shortly thereafter, but I think that was for political theater. She still agrees with pretty much every position that he holds, up to and including, and especially her position on Israel.
That's why I say mass deportations. The reason I tell you mass deportations are a failure, one, that's a fact. The reason I harp on it is to demoralize you. I am telling you that to break you. I am grabbing you by your hair, shoving your face in the mud, and saying this is what voting has wrought. All of this negotiating with yourself in your head, playing with dolls. Oh, Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance, action figures are going to physically remove them. That's not happening. That's not real. 10 years, people's real lives had been destroyed. 10 years, people actually got killed in the BLM riots that Trump let happen.
Oh, please, dude. Jesus Christ, get help.
People actually killed themselves after Charlottesville that Trump let get out of control. People actually had their real lives destroyed being locked up after January 6th.
Now you care about people's actual lives, huh? But he doesn't care about the lives of immigrants who didn't do shit to anybody. Couldn't possibly care less about those lives.
Having their money frozen or being put on the no-fly list. And what do we have to show for it? So it is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Nick Fuentes is on the no-fly list.
It's to tell you this is a reality check. The idea that if we just keep putting down the vote and we're incrementally moving towards far-right ethno-nationalism, if we rack up enough Republican failures in a 700-year period, eventually we'll take back America. It's not happening.
It's not? You don't think you've taken America as a right-wing nutcase? We really do live in different realities.
It wasn't happening in 2017. It's not happening now. They get their wars. They get their corporate tax cut. They buried the Epstein files. No mass deportations. And that's by design. That's how that system works. So this is why people got to get off of the hamster wheel. We're playing hamburger on a string here.
Hamburger on a string. Okay, that's interesting.
They're riding our back with a fishing line over our head with a hamburger. And us true goyim are forever chasing it. You have to get off of the treadmill. Get off the hamster wheel. Do something.
You catch his use of the word goyim there just now? He's an anti-Semitic nutcase.
Something that they fear. And by that, I'm not insinuating violence. I'm saying cause the GOP to panic. The GOP is terrified that the groypers are so popular and we are going to fucking torpedo them over Epstein, Israel, Vance. Damn right we are. And
that's interesting. Like, this is the day before, or maybe a week before or something, Charlie Kirk. And he explicitly said no violence. Huh.
They should fear it because the message is this. Give us another candidate or we will make him lose. Try again. Roll again. You don't want us to make a problem for you? Well, then you better make us happy. Get this fat fuck out of our face or buckle up and have 4 years of Gavin Newsom. We did 4 years of Biden. We lived. Everyone's going to be fine, actually. Buckle up and have 4 years of Gavin Newsom. We did 4 years of Biden. We lived. Everyone's going to be fine, actually. Republicans, and by the way, for everybody that says, oh, what if a Democrat wins? Need I remind you, the Democrats stole the election in 2020 and
give it a fucking rest. Seriously. He cannot possibly believe that today, can he? After Biden lost, Democrats didn't even have control in 2020. Trump had control. How can you possibly say that it was stolen in 2020, but not in 2024? What are you smoking? Really?
And by the way, for everybody that says, oh, what if a Democrat wins? Need I remind you, the Democrats stole the election in 2020 and Republicans were complicit.
This is just BS.
Why does no one talk about this?
Because it's fake.
Think about this. They're telling you, we have to vote. We can't let the Democrats win. If the Democrats win, it's going to be so bad. You, the voters, can't let that happen. Where was that urgency when the Democrats stole it in 20? Every swing state had a Republican-controlled legislature. Almost all of them had Republican governors. Why did they not move a finger?
Because it wasn't stolen.
To stop the election from being stolen. Why did Trump's White House counsel not do anything? Why did the Republicans in the House and the Senate, excuse me, why did they not do anything? We controlled 26 out of 50 state delegations in 2020. They did nothing. Mitch McConnell held impeachment over Trump's head after January 6th.
That's because he committed an insurrection against the U.S. government, obviously.
So it's like, if you care more about Republicans staying in power than they do, what does that tell you? They gaslighted you into being like, really invested. I got to go out and vote. I got to bring 10 people. You know, Scott Pressler, they got this guy. It's like a slave driver. They're working this guy like a dog in Pennsylvania, getting we got to go to Pennsylvania and get everybody to vote. And it's like, when it actually mattered, Republicans, they said, we're okay with Biden becoming president. That's fine.
I don't know what kind of delusion this dude lives in, but like, this is not a representation of reality whatsoever.
What does that tell you?
Oh, looks like that's the end. Wow, Jesus, dude. This guy is disconnected from reality. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Wild.